Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk.
We expect cemeteries to be around forever, but maintaining them is expensive. Coming up, how a new law could help ensure the fiscal future of our final resting places.
Classes are back in session in much of the state. We look at efforts to make the ride to school a lot safer. And a new study on roadways could mean South Central Indiana residents might see some big changes in the way they get around.
When you have improved highway connections and you're able to move not only people but goods faster and hopefully more in a safer way as well.
Ahead, improving access to I-69. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, racial tensions are high across America, and you don't have to look very far to find troubling signs of a rise in anti-immigrant and racist language. Now, in Bloomington, residents have been wrestling with how to deal with hate, anger, and fear of violence at the farmers market. And early this week, flyers found in the city distributed by an alleged KKK group rattled some residents. I sat down with community leader and city council member Jim Sims to talk about how Bloomington is handling these issues. Jim, thank you so much for sitting down with us here today.
You're welcome.
So tomorrow, Saturday, Bloomington residents will head over to the temporary farmers market due to the arrest, the protest going on at the downtown market. You know, a lot of people say that this has come out of nowhere. You know, as a person of color, and you've been here a few years too, right?
Yes.
Here in Bloomington?
Yes.
Has this come out of nowhere?
Of course not. Of course not. In fact, I am the immediate past president of the Monroe County NAACP. So we deal with anti-discrimination tactics, and we've heard about Identity Europa probably at least 2 years prior. No, this is not new, as evidenced with some of the Ku Klux Klan literature that was just left throughout their neighborhoods, and we've had that before. But I still think, for the most part, these are just symptoms of the disease, and at some point we're going to have to talk about the disease.
So at some point everybody has to move forward on this. What should the city's role be now moving forward on the future of the farmers market?
There's limitations on excluding someone based on First Amendment free speech issues. So we're trying to work through all of this. How can we make sure that there's not the ideology of white supremacy in our market as best as we can? How can we limit firearms being carried openly if we can? There's just so many different aspects that we have to look at. It's not a simple decision.
We've seen some criticism on how the city has handled this from the beginning.
Yes.
Is there anything that maybe should have been done differently?
It's my understanding that they have a vendor contract, and part of the violation of that is that you're recruiting members or you're espousing some violence or being discriminatory by not selling to people of color or black people or people that don't support that ideology. But to our knowledge, none of that has occurred, at least in the Bloomington's farmers market. So that makes it tough. It's just something this community is going to have to grapple with. And ultimately, we're going to have to decide, do we want this in our community? And I think it's been a resounding no.
Now, across the country, we've seen some violence due to white supremacy. Do you have concerns about some of that happening in Bloomington?
I think historically, we've seen, and if you look at all the events across the country, and I don't really want to upset or offend anyone, but when there is violence from this white supremacist realm, it's not directed at your larger white population churches. They're going to black churches, they're going to Muslim mosques, they're going to Jewish synagogues, they're going to places like that. So are we concerned in anticipation of violence? No, but I also think we'd be pretty stupid not to be aware of the possibility and to take certain protections, because we gather together and we want to protect folks as best we can.
Jim Sims, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton will host a Facebook Live event next week to talk about ways to make the farmers market a safe and inclusive place for everyone. Well, it's considered by many to be a long shot, but the Mid-States Corridor Project kicked off a 2-year study looking at improving access to I-69. Adam Pinsker spoke with a business owner who's concerned about how the proposed highway expansion project could impact his livelihood.
Mark Toy has run his own auto repair garage on a dusty rural county road outside of Montgomery, Indiana since 1992. He worries his business could come to a screeching halt because of the Mid-States Corridor Project.
I've got 7 full-time employees. That's my main concern, is what will be done to make a business correct if the road cuts off its customer base.
Mid-States partnered with INDOT on identifying potential routes connecting rural communities in south central Indiana to I-69.
And when you have improved highway connections and you're able to move not only people but goods faster and hopefully more in a safer way as well, you're talking about increased opportunities for the region.
Officials with Mid-States spent this week meeting with the public and unveiling plans for potential routes. Some of the proposals include utilizing existing 4-lane routes or expanding 2-lane roads.
We have right now very large study bands. We don't even have a sharpened pathway. We're looking at very wide study bands, and so it's hard to zero in and know exactly where those impacts will be.
The expansion would start on the Kentucky state line in Rockport, Indiana, and span north. One projected route could take it straight north through 231 to the I-69 interchange in Crane, but it could also span east along routes 56 and 145, eventually connecting to Highway 37, or northeast through Shoals and Lagodi into Bedford. The west side potential routes include Highway 356 into Petersburg or northwest along 257. That's an area Toy says would affect him.
I've driven pretty well every route that they've got on there. If you want to talk about the cost of where to build a road, the cheapest, probably the most economical road to build is the one that affects me.
Toy worries if it's chosen, paved roads to the west and east of him would get an overpass, turning his road into a dead-end street.
You'd have to come around to the south to come back to me for probably 90% of my customer base, and it just concerns me that, I know if they pay for the building and the land and stuff like that, what do they do about the loss in business?
Toy told us that Mid-States officials said they would do a cost analysis on his business to see how the work would impact him. If he has to move or close his business for the sake of progress, he hopes it's well worth it.
Well, I'm a businessman. I understand business has to move on, but sometimes I kind of think they might be getting a little ahead of themselves until they get I-69 complete, too.
Mid-States officials say they will narrow down the list of potential routes by the summer of 2021. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
For headlines, we go over to Barbara Brozier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. The governor didn't do anything wrong when he accepted 2 private jet flights paid for by a casino magnate, according to a state investigation. The Inspector General's office investigated last spring after the CEO of Spectacle Entertainment, Rod Ratcliffe, flew Holcomb to Republican Governors Association events while Ratcliffe was pushing for changes to Indiana law that would benefit his business. The office investigated whether Holcomb failed to disclose information about gifts received, but it determined that the gifts and flights were provided to the Republican Governors Association and not to Holcomb's office. Some students may notice slight changes to their bus routes this year. It's part of a larger statewide effort to improve school bus safety.
A law that went into effect this summer aims to keep kids safe on their way to and from school. An accident that killed 3 children when they were crossing the street to board a school bus in 2018 prompted the changes. One of them prohibits school districts from making students cross a highway or a road with a speed limit over 50 miles per hour to board a bus, unless there's no safer alternative.
We are 95% right-hand stops only. All of our highway stops, major thoroughfares are right-hand stops only. This will make the kids' pickups and drop-offs a lot safer.
MCCSC is also loading the buses up with electronics intended to make them safer, including sensors that can trigger brakes to stop the bus if it starts leaning at an unsafe angle. And they added automatic tire chains for winter weather.
All our drivers have to do is flip a switch. Those chains will come down. They can drive on those chains in inclement weather for extra traction, and when they don't need them, they can flip the switch and they will go back into the stored position.
They also installed cameras.
They will be placed up on top of the bus instead of down here below the stop arms so that we can catch the face of the driver and the license plate, to where before, when they were down here, all you could catch was the license plate.
He says they're not letting drivers who pass stopped buses off the hook.
We want to be able to catch the cars in the action so I can show the local police agencies so they can go and have a conversation with that person.
A new law increases the penalty for illegally passing a school bus with its stop arm out to up to 1 year in jail and a $5,000 fine. A Jesuit high school that the Indianapolis Archdiocese no longer recognizes as Catholic because it refused to fire a teacher in a same-sex marriage says it's appealing that decision to the Vatican. Officials at Brebeuf Preparatory School sent a letter to the school community saying the head of the Jesuits' Midwest province has asked Rome to overrule a decree issued in June. Plans for Gatehouse Media to acquire USA Today owner Gannett has some communities worried about the future of local news coverage. Gatehouse bought the Hoosier Times newspaper group earlier this year, which includes the Bloomington Herald-Times and 9 other southern Indiana newspapers. Experts warn these kinds of mergers can impact local coverage.
I think it's fair to say that a lot of people would be pretty concerned about the effect of this on diversity of voices, quality of coverage, numbers of folks in newsrooms, that kind of stuff.
The merger would result in the largest newspaper company in the country. A study from the University of North Carolina says the U.S. has lost nearly 1,800 newspapers since 2004. About half of those that remain are in small rural communities. The companies expect the merger to be official by the end of the year. Municipalities, park officials, tourism experts, and environmentalists are asking the state for money to help prevent erosion along some Lake Michigan beaches. The groups want about $850,000 to go toward a study by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to come up with long-term solutions. One of their biggest concerns is Indiana's #1 tourist attraction, the Indiana Dunes.
But a lot of our beaches are just barely wide enough for one person on a towel, and their head would be on the slope of the dune behind them.
He says parts of the national park have lost a significant amount of beach due to erosion. Speakers at the meeting say the erosion is caused by high water levels as well as man-made structures that can obstruct the flow of sand. And Joe, so many people love those beaches, it would be a shame to lose any more of them.
What an unbelievable project that'll be to tackle. Barbara, thanks very much. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Many Indiana cemeteries are struggling to keep up with their grounds and maintenance projects because they don't have enough money. Ahead, the bind they're in and the options some are considering to bring in extra cash. And Hoosier Hills Food Bank takes in tens of thousands of pounds of food before it goes bad, but it's still not enough to meet the need in southern Indiana. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
We're can you find in-depth reporting and thoughtful analysis? Washington Week on PBS. Join moderator Robert Costa.
When I was at the Capitol this week, I encountered the same.
And a panel of award-winning journalists.
You're seeing a divided nation, and you're seeing.
For insights and perspective.
Tonight there was a key development in the Senate.
You won't find anywhere else.
What a week.
Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, when people buy a plot at a cemetery, they assume their final resting place will be taken care of forever. But cemeteries across the state are struggling financially because the one-time fees people pay for burials don't cover the cost of never-ending maintenance. As Barbara Brozier reports, that's forcing cemeteries to change their business models and even sparking a change in law.
In his 4 decades working as an auctioneer,
this will be a first for me in 43 years.
Jeff Boston has never conducted an auction quite like this.
Yeah, this is a strange one.
Among the hand-carved clocks and unique works of art, people are bidding on something a lot more permanent.
Auctioning off a funeral and grave plots.
It's one of the ways the small community of Sullivan raised money for its historic Center Ridge Cemetery. The city owns these 45 acres, and the cemetery was self-sufficient until about 15 years ago.
With inflation and different things, the revenue that was generated was not enough to cover Center Ridge cemeteries.
Taxpayers subsidize the maintenance costs, but that won't begin to cover 2 major projects that can't wait much longer.
We've got a serious problem with our culvert in front where our arch is, and that is going to cost us, it's 133 feet long. That's going to cost us about $60,000 to $75,000 to replace, to put an insert in it. We can't dig it up, we can't replace it, we can only put an insert in it.
They also need to repair more than 2 miles of road at a cost of about $175,000. So the superintendent came up with the idea to auction off a funeral. Coffin, vault, monument, burial plots, and services included.
What I'm trying to do is just to generate as much interest and as much awareness of the cemetery as I possibly can, and see how much money we can raise.
Between the auction and donations, they raised a small fraction of what they need, $23,000. Money isn't just an issue for Center Ridge. Cemeteries across the state are struggling to keep up with costs.
It costs approximately $250,000 a year to maintain this cemetery.
Casey Miller is executive director of Divine Mercy Funeral Home in Fort Wayne and of the Indiana Cemetery Association. He says the way cemetery funding works in Indiana can pose a challenge. Cemeteries are required by state law to put a certain percentage of every dollar they earn on burials and cremations into what's called their Perpetual Endowment Care Fund. The idea is that it will give them the money they need to care for the cemetery forever. But cemeteries could only spend the interest generated on the fund.
We're living in a very low interest rate environment, so therefore the interest rate from these endowment care funds is very, very low, and the earnings is very low.
A law that went into effect in July gives cemeteries more flexibility with how they can use their perpetual care funds. It creates what's called a unitrust option.
It gives the cemetery board of directors, or those in charge of making financial decisions, the option to use between 3% and 5% of the value of that endowment care fund to offset the maintenance costs of that cemetery.
But Miller says that change alone isn't enough. About 48% of Hoosiers now prefer cremation. So many cemeteries need to reevaluate their business models. This is the future for cemeteries. Columbariums like this one can hold dozens of cremains, but they only take up about as much space as a single burial plot.
2 years ago, all that was here were the garden buildings, just the above-ground mausoleum. So what we did was we took this area in this quadrant here and we developed it into an area for 4 columbaria niche spaces. We started with these 2 here, St. Vincent's and St. Charles, and in each columbarium will rest 144 souls in that particular area.
Miller helps other cemeteries across the state figure out ways to generate additional revenue. Green Hill Cemetery in Bedford started to run into serious cash flow issues a couple years ago. So he convinced the board to offer more cremation services.
And so this one here is our first foray into that business.
This columbarium will hold the cremains of 44 people, and the board is looking into other options to address the rising popularity of cremation and to bring in extra cash. They need it for regular maintenance, like mowing and cutting down trees, but they also shoulder the costs of repairing headstones that deteriorate over time. And there are a lot of them in this cemetery. It dates back to the 1800s.
When someone passes away, their children will come visit, maybe the grandchildren, but when you hit that fourth generation, there's nobody coming to visit these things. But yet it has to be maintained forever.
Maintaining these stones is especially important because of where the cemetery stands in what's known as the limestone capital of the world. You won't see stone carvings like this anywhere else.
This is one of the more unique ones here in the cemetery, the Baker stone. The individual who is buried here was a stone carver, and the gentleman that worked with him decided that his stone, his memorial stone, needed to be a replica of his workbench. So this is his personal workbench as it looked the day that he passed away. The way that he left it will now be memorialized in perpetuity by the friends that he worked with.
It's a testament to the person who rests here, but also the community itself. That's why cemeteries across the state are trying hard to reinvent themselves.
You can tell the caliber of a community by how they respect those who've come before us. And when you walk around this cemetery and see the care that's been taken, it shows.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
There are some cemeteries that date back even further in Indiana history. Many of them are in rural areas and only consist of a small number of stones. Now, next week, we'll show you how a group in Brown County is working to keep the legacies of those buried more than a century ago alive. Well, demand for food donations around South Central Indiana is increasing, not just during holidays, but year-round. As Adam Pinsker tells us, large and small grocery chains are partnering with the Hoosier Hills Food Bank to help meet the need.
The loading dock at the College Avenue Kroger is a place where food is usually brought into the store, but Hoosier Hills is not here to make a delivery. The nonprofit is loading its truck full of everything from pastries to produce from the store's shelves.
It's food that's very close to the end of its life, but it's food that we work really hard to maintain. We keep it in a cool chain all day, and we also get that food distributed that same day to a pantry.
Manager for food sourcing at Hoosier Hills, Brandon Bartley, says his drivers make the rounds throughout Monroe County, not just at Kroger, but other grocers as well, including Fresh Time, Blooming Foods, Walmart, and Lucky's.
There's no need for all this food to go to waste. We waste way too much food.
The College Mall Kroger donates 600 pounds of food per month as part of its zero waste initiative that started a few years back. It's a lot of food, but Hoosier Hills is still having a hard time keeping its supply stocked because demand is so high.
We just had our largest food drive of the year in May. We received 42,000 pounds of canned goods, and we're actually all out of that 42,000 pounds of canned goods.
Kroger department managers work on reducing waste as much as possible by trying to predict customers' buying habits so they can order the right amount of food and products, but it's not an exact science.
There is a whole lot of processes that show us how much to order. A lot of it's based on history, and then there is some things that factor in with weather, events that are happening, but we order truck to truck. That's our goal.
Hoosier Hills says they put excess food to good use. They also work with local and chain restaurants like Olive Garden and Texas Roadhouse to repurpose some of their uneaten food. And the people you'd normally think would benefit from the donations aren't who you think.
I think it would surprise people that our client base is the working needy. It's not people that don't have jobs. It's not people without housing. It's actually a lot of people that work full-time jobs.
Bartley says the public plays a critical role as well. Individual donations to Hoosier Hills dropped dramatically outside the Christmas and Thanksgiving holidays. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
And for the first time, fans will be able to buy beer and wine at football games at Indiana University's Memorial Stadium this fall. IU is partnering with Bloomington-based Upland Brewery. The local alcoholic beverage board approved the permit for the stadium this week. Representatives for the project responded to concerns about keeping alcohol out of the hands of minors.
Could potentially happen. I'm not going to stand here and say it won't. It's just it's human nature. But I think the number of eyes that we have on these processes, I think, are going to minimize that possibility.
He says each transaction will be limited to 2 alcoholic beverage purchases. Additional services like rideshare and designated driver programs will be provided. Now, beer will be $7 and $8. Wine will be $9. IU plans to allocate 10% of sales to alcohol safety programming. IU is the 7th Big Ten school to offer alcohol sales at football games. Summer camp already underway at IU. College football will be here before you know it. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller-Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.